Welcome in for take two of episode 46 of the Silver and Blue podcast. I'm your host, Nate Sanchez. Joining me is my co-host, Corey Douglas. Corey, we started recording about half this podcast, and then the sound went out, and then we just had to cut the broadcast and just scrubbed it off YouTube and Twitter. We're starting from scratch here. Cowboys fall to the Jaguars 40-34 in overtime. Very disappointing loss as the Cowboys had a 27-10 second half lead. And then Trevor Lawrence happened. Issues in the secondary reared their ugly head, and a lot of Cowboys fans are hitting the panic button. I don't know that I'm necessarily there yet, but a lot of issues coming out of Sunday's game.
Yeah, this is definitely a turn for the defense that I did not see coming. The first couple of months of the season when we were just singing the defense's praises about how dominant they are, and this is the best defense that Dak has had in his career, and this is one that can take over games. And Michael Parsons, the 7-11 thing with Trevon Diggs, all of that has really kind of gone out the window the last 5 weeks, I would say. Now, they haven't been awful the last 5 weeks, I would say, in every single game, but definitely the two against now the Packers and the Jaguars, where you have those, 2 touchdown plus leads, and then you end up faltering in those games. It's definitely concerning. I don't know where this team necessarily falls in the ranks of elite contenders, because I don't think with this defense, the way the secondary is shaking out, I don't know if a playoff run is in the cards now at this point. But again, we talked about this a little bit last week where, the last couple of Super Bowl champions, they have not been, in peak form in November and early December. So maybe the Cowboys can turn things around and find, some type of solutions in the secondary. But right now it's definitely looking bleak.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just some issues in the secondary that appear to be unfixable. And again, the offense had their own issues that we need to discuss, but the offense did enough on Sunday. They scored 34 points. They got the defense the lead. And again, 34 points should be enough just about in all 17 games. And it wasn't on Sunday, unfortunately. But yeah, just basic numbers. The Jaguars were 8 of 12 on third down. They rolled up 503 yards. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 touchdown passes. The Jaguars averaged 7 yards a carry on the ground. They just used a ton of misdirection to really confuse the Cowboys linebackers. The run defense really went sideways after Leighton Vander Esch got hurt early in the game. We saw Anthony Barr being exposed. Damone Clark, who, as good of a player as I think he's going to be, he doesn't have a lot of experience, so the misdirection was really messing with him. The interior defensive line didn't play very well. And then in the secondary, like we talked about, Kelvin Joseph just got destroyed on a couple big plays that really cost the team. And, frankly, I was listening to the Locked On Cowboys podcast earlier, and Landon McCool was talking about, looking at the All-22 and Kelvin Joseph, and I kind of agreed. He was like, look, Kelvin played pretty well for most of the game. He just has 2 or 3 massive mistakes. And like that happens with every young corner. It's like, look, like they're going to have to take their lumps to get there. But with the point in the season where we're at, like we're in mid-December, the time to take lumps is gone. You can't be taking lumps in the playoffs. There isn't really a great solution because Nahshon Wright wasn't as very good. There's a reason Mackenzie Alexander, Kendall Sheffield, Trayvon Mullen, there's a reason all those guys were available to you at this point in the season. So I'm not super optimistic about how this quarterback situation is gonna shake out. And frankly, there's a lot of Cowboys fans. I'm very glad I'm on the right side of history on this one, because there are a lot of Cowboys fans that owe Anthony Brown a big apology.
Try to tell y'all. I tried to tell y'all.
We tried to tell y'all.
Every week y'all came in here and we're trying to say, and Anthony Brown gives up one play and you guys want to go on Twitter rants with 3 or 4 different tweets and saying how trash he is. Well, now look what you got. You got actual trash who's not just giving up 1 or 2 plays, but will also make their share of plays. You got a guy who is going to maybe not get beat, the majority of the game, but he's going to have multiple snaps during the game where he's going to give up a bomb, which completely shifted the momentum in this game. Yep. And I was saying a little bit earlier that, like even when he gave up that bomb, I was like, well, it's still 27-17. I noticed how hyped Jacksonville was getting. I'm like, okay, we all still down 10. You guys can't stop the offense. And that one play kind of shifted the entire game.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what you get when you have, a young cornerback, Kelvin Joseph in his second year, who we just keep waiting for him to show his talent on a more consistent basis. But it just hasn't happened yet. And now, this is where we're at. You look at that struggling secondary with the pass rush being unable to kind of finish plays right now. They're kind of going through their little lull of the season. So there's a lot of question marks on the defense right now. And I think there's more questions than answers at this point.
Yeah, especially in the secondary. The pass rush just, the pass rush was awesome early in the season. It's fallen off a good bit recently. But like then again, like they just need to be able to finish because they had 28
Right.
pressures on Sunday. That's a massive amount. I want to say, I think I saw on Twitter that's the most they've had all year or close to it. Either way, it was up there. They just only had one sack, and they had one play
Mhm.
where Carlos Watkins had had Trevor Lawrence dead to rights and just couldn't get him to the ground. It was a really quiet day from Demarcus Lawrence. Just not like I said earlier, the interior guys weren't there. Micah Parsons certainly showed up. He had 12. He had 12 pressures his most of the season, and he had a sack early in the game. But outside of that, just not much from the pass rush. And I know we're nitpicking here, saying not much from the pass rush when they had 28 pressures. Well, with the current state of the secondary and the cornerbacks,
You have to be able to get home.
yes, they're going to have to get home. They're going to have to get home quick because they were getting pressure. It's just the secondary couldn't hold on long enough for them to get home and finish. Well, now the pass rush is going to have to pick up that slack because, at this point, the secondary is just not going to cut it. Malik Hooker has to be a lot better. He has to be able to help out Kelvin Joseph more because, and like, here's the thing: you can't be like, all right, cut Kelvin Joseph, like blah blah blah. The other guys they have aren't going to be any better. Like again, I rattled off the names earlier that are on the roster and on the practice squad. Those guys are not like Dan Quinn said it's an open competition, but the odds these guys are going to come in and way outperform Kelvin Joseph aren't super high. And like he's a second round pick of yours. All these guys are going to take their lumps. You would rather the second year corner take their lumps as they try and develop into something. But that's just the reality of the situation. This is what happens when cornerback 3 breaks his foot mid-season, and then cornerback 2 blows out his Achilles later in the season. Like this is what happens. And all I can tell you is you better pray to God if you believe, or if you don't, pray to somebody that Trayvon Diggs stays healthy the rest of the way, because I don't even want to think about how ugly this could get in the secondary if Diggs goes down. So
Yeah, that's a season ender right there. It's
yeah,
over.
yeah,
It's over at that
exactly.
point.
But we've mentioned the negatives of the secondary. Big positive, where would they be without Deron Bland? Like honestly, where would they be without Deron Bland? He's been incredible. I don't have his coverage stats in front of me. I believe he had a couple pass breakups. He had an interception. What a find he's been. You and I have kind of been on him since the preseason when he showed out all camping in preseason, and he's turned out to be a good player. But outside of Diggs and Bland, it's a little bit of a disaster at cornerback right now.
Yeah, and just one thing with getting pressure, I think you have to give a lot of credit to Trevor Lawrence as well, because I mean he was
Yeah.
evading some of those pressures and getting out there, getting outside the pocket, and making some really good throws. And he kind of continued his trend outside a couple of takeaways or giveaways, fumbles, and the one
Yeah.
interception by Bland. But definitely give a lot of credit to Trevor Lawrence for continuing to play, at a high level. And now they're one game out of their division from from leading the AFC South. So definitely shout out to Trevor Lawrence on that end. But yeah, Deron Bland has definitely been quite the find for the Cowboys. And I say this every week, but for a team that believes in developing their young talent, it looks like they found another young corner.
Yep.
And with that being said, I think we also know where they're going to go in the first round this upcoming draft.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the secondary because there's a lot of questions back there, and not enough answers right now. We're gonna see what happens these last 3 weeks. Before the playoffs come. Since they did clinch a playoff spot, believe it or not, on Sunday with the Giants going into Washington and winning that football game. But yeah, this is going to be, we're not as happy as we were, a couple of months ago where, this team was really
Yeah.
looking like a legit Super Bowl contender. And, can we catch the Eagles? All of that is dead now, especially on the Eagles' part. They're not going to win the division, even though Jalen Hurts is dealing with a little shoulder injury right now. But, I think we just got to focus on rounding up into the playoffs and seeing what we can find these last, few weeks of the season.
Yeah. So looking at the Cowboys stats and graphics. I don't know if you follow Cowboys stats on Twitter, but they put out a an interesting EP like they broke up the season into three different segments. I'll just talk. They talk. He mentions the offense too, but I'll just talk about the defense for now. Um, he breaks up into weeks 1 through 6. So the Tampa Bay game, and then when Rush played, weeks 7 through 12 when Dak returned, and then weeks 13 through 15, which 13 through 15, things have been a little antsy recently with how Cowboys fans have been feeling lately. So the pass defense, weeks 1 through 6, third and again, this is excluding turnovers because turnovers swing EPA so much. This is excluding turnovers. Pass defense was third. Then week 7 through 12, it was eighth. Weeks 13 through 15, 27th. And then the run defense, eighth, weeks 1 through 6, 28th, weeks 7 through 12. Remember, that was kind of during the Packers run when we were really
Hmm.
worried about the run defense. And then weeks 13 through 15, the run defense is sixth. So the big issue right at present day is the pass defense. And again, you and I are spitballing solutions here. I don't know that there's any solutions in house right now. They're going to be able to fix the secondary. And I really just think the onus falls on the run defense and the pass rush to make they just have to make life harder on passing downs
Hmm.
for opposing quarterbacks. It's kind of their only play. And I guess thankfully the NFC is a lot weaker this year. It isn't what we've seen, and that's fine. They like that gives you a better chance, a better chance. But man, there's some pretty serious concerns about the back end of this defense right now. And there's I'm really shorthanded on solutions here.
Yeah, because I mean you're shorthanded on solutions because I there's not really one that you can just look at on this roster and be like, okay, well this guy can fill in for such and such. I mean, there's a reason why they've kind of been on the waiver market and bringing in guys these last couple of weeks is because I think they know that as well. And like we just talked about with Diggs did happen to go down. Knock on wood because if he does, like I said, the season, like we said, the season is over at that point. Like don't even worry about it. But I think this is going to be a conversation that we're going to have now that we're pretty much locked into the 5 seed.
Hmm.
Who's going to win the NFC South? Like, what is your playoff opponent looking like? If we play Tom Brady and Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and those type of receivers that they have over there. While they're not a very good team overall, matchups make fights, and we've kind of already
Hmm.
seen Tampa Bay come in here opening night and hand the Cowboys a pretty good one. So I mean, this is not gonna get any easier unless somehow the Falcons or the Panthers win the NFC South. Then you'll feel a little bit better about their prospects of winning a playoff game. But going to Tom Brady in the playoffs doesn't sound appealing to me.
Yeah, no, and as bad and awful as that Bucks team has been this year, it's still the boogeyman Tom Brady, who the Cowboys have never beaten before. And that's just the reality of the situation. That's the reality of the NFC at this point. So, um, you know, I guess that's kind of that on the defense. They're gonna have to lean on the pass rush. Malik Hooker and the safeties are gonna have to be better. Injuries are just kind of mounting, and they need to. Dan Quinn is gonna have to get creative to figure out the secondary. So. Um, let's talk about the offense, and I don't think you can have a conversation about the I don't think you can have a conversation about the offense without
Yeah, I think what he was transitioning to was this Cowboys offense. And there is a lot to dissect on that front. When you talk about the play of Dak Prescott, you talk about the play calling of Kellen Moore late in the game. So let's just go ahead and dive right into Dak Prescott's play because for the majority of the game, I thought he played a phenomenal game. I believe in the first half, he was 12 of 13, really efficient, making good decisions. CD Lamb was eating. Give me one second.
Can you hear me now? Are we good? All right, we're having all sorts of technical difficulties today. No, go
Yeah,
ahead
we're
and
gonna
finish
power
your
through it though. We're gonna power
thought.
through it.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, Dak Prescott, played a phenomenal game for the most part, but then you still have, the interception that he throws, where there's been a big debate on social media about, whether his arm got hit enough where it should have affected the throw, where he airmailed Dalton Schultz. I don't personally. I'm looking at it and I don't see that as a valid excuse there. But again, I've never played quarterback in the NFL. I haven't been hit at that angle. But it just seemed like an inexcusable interception. Then late in the game, the Noah Brown interception is obviously completely on Noah Brown.
Yeah.
He has to catch that football. And then another thing I think is kind of not been talked about, at least from what I've been hearing, is the decision for third down. I feel like that's not only on the offensive coordinator Kellen Moore for not designing a play where you're going to make sure that at the very least you're going to get some type of completion there to keep the clock running, make Jacksonville use their last timeout, but also on the quarterback, you have to know you can't just heave a ball down the field in that situation where it's a low percentage play. You're really just hoping for a flag, and then you're throwing it to Noah Brown, which is not, despite the day he had in that situation. I'm not going to Noah Brown in that situation. CD Lamb was eating just as as good as Noah Brown was. So I think that's a decision that Dak Prescott has to be better on as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And again, I agree with you. Surface level, Dak was terrific most of the day. I think he had one bad throw, which was the first pick. Second pick, not at all on him. Dak was, generally surgical on the day. Dallas totaled 397 yards, 5.4 yards per play, 7.4 yards per pass, 154 yards on the ground, but it was pretty inefficient. They ran the ball 41 times on Sunday. Just it was a little bit of Jones boy football, which got them in some trouble. And honestly, like you kind of touched on it, but like a moment in the game where things went sideways was so obviously the long touchdown pass to Zay Jones over Kelvin Joseph makes it 27-17. And then you're like, all right, that place is starting to get a little excited. Dallas is up. And Dallas is up 10. You need a drive here to kind of quiet things. And they come out there and they go first down, sack, loss of 8, second down, Dak interception, and then the floodgates are just opened up. And it's, oh boy, here we go. And they obviously immediately scored as well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, just a lot of bad moments. And here's the thing, like CD was really good on Sunday. The issue that's holding back this offense right now is the scheme in terms of just not a lot of guys open, not a lot of guys schemed open. Dak is just constantly throwing through tighter windows than you see other quarterbacks throwing into all the time. And this is like, again, people complain about Kellen Moore. They say Kellen Moore needs to go, this, that, and the other. If they let go of Kellen Moore, they're just going to bring in another guy that just runs the Jones offense. So like, firing Kellen Moore doesn't do anything. I'm not an anti-Kellen Moore guy at all. I think he could have been better in spots Sunday. But he was just throwing in tight windows all day, and they don't have any good receivers outside of CD. Michael Gallup has not been good. And he's sort of past the point of, he's working back from the ACL. At this point, Gallup needs to step up. And then Noah Brown, God love him, but he's not that guy. And it just sucks for Noah Brown because outside of that drop that ended up costing them the game, that was picked off and ran back for the game-winning touchdown, Noah Brown was pretty good yesterday. He made some big catches. So hopefully T.Y. Hilton's able to help things out. But my biggest thing with the offense right now is they're a little too reliant on the run right now. I've seen Not to be trite on Twitter talking about how, whenever they're throwing a lot, you hear a lot about balance in the media. They're all talking about, we need more balance. But whenever they're running a lot and way more than passing, you don't hear anything about balance. Like they're out balanced on the run over the pass at this point. So yeah, those are my biggest issues right now is a lack of balance, running too much. And then, the receivers, there's just, hopefully T.Y. Hilton's able to help things out. I think he might be able to in, certain spots, but there's just a lot of issues with, philosophical issues with the offense, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, and I think it was a huge mistake not having T.Y. Hilton active. I think, when we did the preview show, I think we were kind of under the expectation just based off quotes coming from Jerry Jones that he was going to be active for Sunday's game. And then you come out game day, he's not active. And this is why the Cowboys have been kind of thirsty after a receiver as well. It's that these guys in crucial moments, you got to be able to make that play. Noah Brown, the offense is flowing. You're on your way down to possibly kick a game-winning field goal, get out of Jacksonville, without completing that collapse, and then the ball goes right off your hands into the defenders for a pick six. T.Y. Hilton, I don't think is making that same play. And Odell Beckham, if he ever got on the field, if they signed him, it's not making that play. So, there's been a lot of criticism I feel like the Cowboys have been getting for going after a receiver, but I think you saw it on Sunday with the lack of Gallup, making an impact, Noah Brown making a crucial mistake despite having a really good game. And then after that, it's just nothing. You're getting no type of production. So yeah, I mean that's just it just can't happen, and it's definitely something that they're going to have to figure out. And then I feel like they're still getting away from kind of the balance that they've had with running the ball, spreading the touches out between Zeke and Pollard. It just kind of feels like they're kind of teetering on whether what we want to stay with this or maybe we want to go back to our old habits. And it's kind of been a trend over the last couple of seasons, late in the season, where Kellen Moore's offense just kind of goes in and out, and it's just the consistency just isn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. They're just going to have to. I mean, the way things are currently constructed is for this offense to be successful, Dak has to be borderline perfect, and he's been really, really, really good since he's come back from his injury. But it's just right now with the offense, they've been able to put up points. They've been able to rack up big numbers, but there's some clear flaws. A lack of a second passing, a pass catcher behind CeeDee Lamb. Not an offensive line that frankly is not very good in pass protection. We've said that all year. It's been an issue. Tyler Smith is starting to become an issue at left tackle. He's given up 2 sacks. On Sunday, he gave up 2 sacks and 3 hurries for a total of 5 pressures. And I think he's going to be a good player. His pass protection just has to get better. And it sucks that we were so close to getting Tyron Smith back at left tackle, with Terrence Steele at right tackle, and Tyler Smith at guard, where I think Tyler Smith would have excelled at guard. But that's no longer an option. And now I thought Tyron Smith was okay at right tackle. I think he's going to get better as he keeps going, just because he's Tyron Smith. But he had some issues here and there. Jason Peters really struggled. This is just not a good pass protecting unit. So they're going to have to get really creative on offense to figure some things out as they keep going. But I have some serious concerns about a few things with this team. Again, and these are things that already were concerns. The pass protection has been an issue all year. The scheme and wide receivers have been an issue all year. And then when earlier we talked about the defense, we knew cornerback was going to be an issue without Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis. So they're just going to have to get creative to make this thing work and go on a run, which they still can do. And that's the last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here was how much, look, here's the thing. Cowboys fans are the biggest masochists ever, I swear. The sky's falling all the time for them. How much did losing Sunday really change things? The likelihood that I'll say this, the likelihood that you were going to catch Philadelphia was already low. You were already probably going to be the 5th seed. How much does Sunday really change things? And if you're able to turn things around and play well going into the playoffs, not much changes. You're still playing whatever bad team wins the NFC South in the first round, and then you go from there. I guess that's my question. Did Sunday really change anything? Because
I think
they said they're still 10-4.
I think in the grand scheme of things, as far as seeding wise, it doesn't change anything. However, when you look at the course of history for the Cowboys the last 25 years, and are they true contender status? And I feel like that definitely took a hit on Sunday where,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair.
seating's fine. The seating's fine. You're not in danger of missing the playoffs, obviously, because you clinched the playoff spot. But just how you feel going into it, just compare the feeling, how we're feeling right now compared to a couple of months ago when, everything was going, great. We're like, okay, Dak's coming back. This offense is going to take off. Defense is playing phenomenal, and then you have one or two injuries on the defense. You lose Leighton Vander Esch as well at linebacker on Sunday to a neck injury. So you put that in along with the secondary issues, the lack of pass rush, being able to finish. There's just a lot of warts that are starting to come up and appear.
Yep.
That's why I think the change in the conversation has shifted, not only just among Cowboys fans, but the national media. I heard Richard Sherman going off on the Cowboys last week. Rex Ryan was kind of, calling the defense soft. And, people are pulling up the Micah Parsons quotes from a couple years ago. It's just a lot of stuff kind of going on, and it feels like it's kind of working against the Cowboys right now.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree that like the noise right now isn't, great, but I just think roster wise, team wise, like the offense is still playing at a high level. The pass rush, I think it's just that they need to figure out the pass rush. I think that's the biggest thing as they head into these last 3 weeks. Teams have sort of figured out how to neutralize the pass rush with a lot of misdirection, a lot of quick game. And it's something Dan Quinn needs to get figured out. But they have an opportunity over these last 3 weeks to get that momentum back. And they're not technically out of the division. With this Jalen Hurts injury news, I guess Philadelphia could lose out, not counting on it. But, Jalen Hurts is probably not playing on Saturday. At least that's what was reported yesterday. And then, you'll go to Tennessee next Thursday. And then you'll close out with a tough road game against a decent Washington team. And I think if they're able to, go 2-1 or 3-0 on there, you're back on track and not much has changed. And you'll head likely, I'm assuming, to Tampa Bay. And, maybe the Panthers can help us out and win that division because, as bad as Tampa Bay's been, I would much rather play Carolina than Tampa Bay. So, that's a conversation for when we get into January. But there's definitely some stuff Dallas has to get reconciled over these last 3 weeks as they head into the playoffs. But yeah, do you have anything else about the playoff push before we get out of here?
No, I definitely think a lot of stuff needs to, kind of try to be answered these last 3 weeks going into it. And then, I think my eyes have kind of gone away from the NFC East and, the possibility of actually winning that division. I think the focus right now is, all right, I'm gonna start paying attention really hard to the NFC South and kind of see, who's doing what each week and, who are the Cowboys going to be visiting in the round one of the playoffs. I think it's the biggest thing going forward right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be back later this week to preview the Christmas Eve showdown against the Eagles, against probably Gardner Minshew and the rest of that team. So it's going to be a busy week. It's Christmas time. Busy time for everybody, and it's certainly a busy time for the Cowboys and a busy time in the NFL. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to check out everything we got going on at the Dallas Sports Fanatic, including the Silver and Blue podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Dallas Sports Fanatic. You can get us on Twitter at Cowboys News 365 and at Dallas_Fanatic. You can get me on Twitter at Nate_Sanch77. You can get Corey on Twitter at the Mr. Douglas. We'll talk to you guys later this week when we preview the Cowboys Eagles Christmas Eve showdown.
Yes, sir.